I'm very impressed. I'm surprised and delighted that so many people come to a talk about a topic that I expected nobody wanted to hear anything anymore. I'm not sure how you feel, but I feel there is this constant bombardment with AI visions in social media, on conferences, a new beta release, a new pilot, everything. So I'm really happy. Maybe you like the title, Salesforce and AI from the trenches, because this is what I'm going to talk about. No vision stuff, just stuff which does not only work, but even has worked in the last year. I'm going to tell you the story about what I and my team at Aquiva Labs have built in the last year using AI in Salesforce, and yeah, what lessons learned I can share with you to speed up your own journey. So, I'm Robert. I'm a Salesforce MVP and work as a principal architect at Aquiva Labs. Aquiva Labs is a huge Salesforce SI and PDO partner, so we have big customers with digital transformation, but also build AppExchange apps at small and big scale. And before I jump into details, I want to bring myself and you into this spirit a year and a half ago when GPT-4 came out, when we all went crazy. Maybe you still remember the time when you first played with it, talked to your colleague. There was only extremes. There was a spectrum of people who said, amazing, we will solve all the problems in our company, in the world. We will all get rich. I don't know. And on the other side, there was people who said, this is not important, this is old stuff, or we will lose our jobs, humanity will end. And at Aquiva Labs, we were at the same situation, and we thought, we need to do something. We cannot just stay in that space. So a cool group of a few people in the company gathered in Berlin a few days to actually make sense about this. We built a small AI task force at that time. And yeah, and we discussed what to do, and I want to tell you about the journey. So we did more experiments, but I want to tell you about 3 of them, which all had one goal. Use AI, build something in Salesforce with as many Salesforce means as possible, and actually use it in the company. And yeah, those 3 apps, they might also remind you of your own journey. So we built an app at the beginning just using LLMs, OpenAI, learned a little bit about prompt, voodoo, magic, and context. Then we found the limitations of prompts and context and looked into vector databases, embeddings, and all that cool stuff. And then we get a little bit sick of just text generation and looked into agentic workflows, agents, and this is my org butler. And yeah, let me start with DMD. Give me just a quick show of hands. Who knows PMD? Okay, you make me happy. Because back in 2016, I ported PMD to Salesforce, and I'm really happy to see that basically every Salesforce developer uses it for finding issues in code. And PMD came up in our discussion in Berlin. We were sitting there and said, AI is dangerous. It can take away responsibility from people. How can we mitigate that? And I said, couldn't we do something like PMD? PMD is not really taking away the responsibility from a developer. It's just showcasing with those squiggly lines that something is wrong. PMD often hallucinates in the form of false positives. So we said, why not use generative AI, which is so good in understanding text, to do something for business documents? And we built DMD, the document mess detector. So instead of giving it code, you give it a contract, an SOW, and a rule set of handwritten or natural language rules, and DMD will check it. And I will not really tell you much more. I will go into a demo. So let me switch to my org, and I hope I have good internet here. and I don't have to show you just demos. So DMD is a Salesforce native app. And as you all, or many of you know PMD, let me first go into a rule set. As I said, at Aquiva Labs, we help partners into the AppExchange, and this means passing security review. You heard about that. And there's a document type which you have to provide, the solution design. And we just wanted to codify our knowledge about how to write a good and short and detailed solution design document into a rule set. This is a rule set. It has a little bit of, for an LLM, context, blah, blah, but this is important. This will actually make into a prompt, and then we have rules. And I just show you two rules. There is a rule which says that the document should include a section which describes the architecture, the data flow, especially if you're using APIs, and you should actually use diagrams for that. I just show you another second rule, which I just added before. It's saying when the app uses any form of generative AI, you need to talk about explicitly how to mitigate hallucination risks. Okay, let's just do a scan on such a file. So this is a solution design document. This is how it looks. We have those UML charts in it. And I just want to scan it. And I use a plain text version so that the AI actually recognizes the diagrams in it. I click Analyze. I select my rule set, hit Save, and then it runs. And I always say that, as in every good cooking show, I prepared the meal. So I'm showing you how the output of such an analysis looks like. So we failed. 6 rules passed, but 1 did not. And let's just go into the rules which I showed you before. DMD is really telling you why something failed. So it recognized we have diagrams. It recognized we have APIs in the app that are well described. So it actually tells us why it thinks the rule passed. And the AI rule failed. Because also we're using OpenAI, we're not explicitly stating, yeah. This is just an example. I just want to show you that we can actually do something usable. And this is not, it's not like every of our 100 employees is using that app, but this is really used in Aquiva Labs. So go back to the slideshow. How does that work? In Salesforce is a small, boring managed package with a bunch of custom objects to represent rules, rule sets, analysis. The magic happens when somebody clicks analysis. We take the Salesforce file, send it to an off-platform text extraction API, get back plain text, and then we basically merge it with the rules and rule sets, send it to OpenAI, ask it to analyze the text, and send us back a JSON result. How do I stand time-wise? I'm good. Good. So what did we learn from that? So one important learning was models are really important. You know, you hear about all the models are getting better, but it's not always the way that the best model is the one you should take. So we found out that GPT-3 was useless for this kind of text analysis. GPT-4 was great, but slow and expensive. And we find a good middle ground in GPT 3.5. So those models is really something you should understand, and also the pricing. The second one, document size really limited the app. It's just the information you put into. We ran into heap size problems, request size, sending stuff from Salesforce to the outside world. And yeah, and this also led to our second experiment with vector databases. So just waiting for a bigger context window doesn't actually help you, because it will always be restricted. Interesting at that time was that we could actually cope with the AI flaws like hallucinations. We used a little bit of few-shot prompting and all that prompting magic, and found the results of DMD really to be nearly having no hallucinations. Another thing which you also see in Salesforce AI implementations, it's really good if you make any app LLM agnostic or even model agnostic, so that you can switch. You know, we ported PMD to use a Llama, Facebook open source model, and we did it with custom metadata and Apex. It was not trivial, but it's actually doable because all those AI models, LLMs, are quite similar in their parameters and configuration. Okay, next step, ask your document. We wanted to have more content in Salesforce. We just wanted huge documents, and ask your document is much simpler than DMD. It's basically on the preview page for a file in Salesforce, you have a chat window and you can ask about the content. I will show it to you, and that you trust me that this is really a huge document. I know something, I use something which you know. 500 pages, 40 megabytes big. So let's look how it works. I just go into this preview window, and here is ask your document. I just ask, is there news about Scratch orgs? So I hope it works. This is all live, so yes. So cool, we have Scratch org snapshots, and indeed that's a thing. So I didn't make this up, so it really found this out. Maybe I can also ask any Einstein AI features going GA. Yeah, there is a typo, but I actually put it in because I want to show how good it copes with typos. I couldn't even ask in German. So, no information. We know all that. No Salesforce Einstein features going GA, just pilots. So, is anyone from Salesforce in the room? No. Okay. How does that work? It's a simple app, and this image should tell you the implementation was anything but simple. We had to understand a whole new world of systems. We had to offload everything to AWS, and AWS is like, if Salesforce is like playing ground in the kindergarten, AWS is like Voldemort, and I don't know how this huge country is called in Ring of the Lord. So we had to understand AWS, how to use it, how to configure it, how it is priced. To get bigger files, we had to fetch them from AWS. We had to find a text extraction library. To coordinate that, we had to learn or understand Python. And on top of Python, we had to learn an AI framework called LangChain. And the biggest part, the most important part, was this vector database. Vector databases are really great because they store content in a semantic form. So when you put a Salesforce file into a vector database, it's chunked, so it's creating small snippets, and all of those snippets are converted to a huge vector of 500 numbers, which define the semantic meaning. And then when somebody asks a question, the question is also converted to such a vector. And then it's basically looking for similar vectors, and the results are then summarized by OpenAI. That's called retrieval augmented generation, because we generate text, but we augment it with stuff we retrieve from a vector database. Learnings, many learnings. The biggest learning, off-platform can become a nightmare, especially in the realm of AI. So Google Cloud, AWS, they have great power, but they also come with a great cost, skill cost and everything. We also found that when you move things to AWS, you tend to even move things out of Apex into AWS because the integration is so complicated, because you don't have asynchronous APIs, and yeah. And this was not what we actually wanted, because we want to keep a lot of the stuff in Salesforce. The most important thing for everybody here in the audience who thinks like RAG is like training your own LLM on your company's data, it's not. RAG is not understanding content like when you train it on your data. It's just like a smarter search, because just imagine you put like a big document like the Bible into a vector database. You cannot really ask, can you summarize the whole story? Because it's really just searching. So if there is no summary in this big text, it cannot do it. So vector databases and RAG are not a solution to not training your own language model. Okay. By the time we did that, especially after this frustrating development, we said we want to do more than text. We want to save time. We want to actually take away work from people and give it to an AI, and made a small experiment, which I would say was the most successful one, because it didn't take a lot of time, and it even impressed people in our company who weren't impressed by all the things we did before. Waving hands to Greg. My org butler is like Copilot, but better. It's a small taskbar application. You don't see it. It's too light here. It's a small taskbar app in Salesforce, and you can just ask questions about your org, about your data. You can ask it to create data. You can ask about metadata. And I want to show it to you. So, this is my org. Let me just go into the sales app. And here it is. I just assume I'm a sales guy. Which opportunity should I work on today first? So, and then I click it. And this is always a little bit, will it answer right this time? But I switched to, yeah. So it gives me a few examples. It tells me I should work on this one because it's closing soon. Then I say, you know, I could just click it, but I want you to be impressed by just saying, hey, open it. You know, no sensible person would ask in a chat to open a record, but maybe I can impress you by saying, create a task to call the customer on Wednesday. And I'm always misspelling Wednesday, but it will probably do it. And I will explain in a minute how much time do I have? Cool, super. Oh, yeah. So this time it didn't work. Normally it would just create a record. We even built something like those helpful buttons. That's an Aquiva feature. We basically, for all our apps or open source apps or whatever we build for the customer, we build in features to track how good they are, if they work. But that's just a side note. So, oh yeah, it created it. It just was a little bit verbose. So here's the task. So, perfect. I will tell you how this works. So, we are not using Salesforce magic. In Salesforce, there is this taskbar app in the Butler app, and there are some tools, a little bit like those Salesforce Copilot actions, which do normal stuff in Apex. So deterministic code, no AI. The magic is, again, off-platform, but super simple. It's an OpenAI API. It's the Assistant API. So we pay for it, but it's really affordable. And it takes away all the complexity of agentic things. So when you open the app, the assistant is invoked. When you ask any question, it's finding out which tools to call, and it's just basically calling this tool in Salesforce. I want to show you how it looks in the OpenAI backend. So that's OpenAI is also, no, my org butler is also Salesforce code, but this is the actual magic. So the org butler is a lengthy text of instructions which tells it what it is and how it should work. There is a model which runs it, and then there is tools. And tools is you just define something which the AI can call. For example, and this is very different from what you saw in Kier's talk before, not fine-grained actions which do one thing. It's a big action. It can call arbitrary Salesforce APIs because it knows them all, because it's an LLM. It just needs to tell you, hey, which URL, which parameters, which body, which HTTP method. And there's other actions like you see it, notify user, open page. I just want to show you how it looks when I just play with it in the OpenAI playground. So I already put a text in here. I just ask, for a support case, I need my org ID and the admin's username. And you see, this is basically where it says, could you please call a tool for me? It wants to call this Salesforce API with that query. And this is not reaching into our Salesforce org, no security risk. We're pulling from Salesforce and actually getting that and then just calling it. Okay, I hear it. You are like super impressed. I really was, and I wasn't always impressed by what AI can do. So what did we learn from this experimentation? LLMs are not replacing coding or anything. LLMs are perfect for glue code. So when you have Apex code, that's good, but sometimes you have like a user request which you cannot really make sense of, and having an LLM in the middle is really cool for code orchestration. What we also learned that the question how to scope such actions, such skills in Salesforce, it's also called actions, that's actually hard. Do you make many small actions which can just do a little fine-grained job, or do you have a really powerful job which can basically do everything but is more likely to fail with hallucinations? So I think, I guess in a few years we will have books about that topic, like 10 years ago, how to scope my REST service, how to scope my, yeah. It's an endless question in computer science. I just want to summarize learning 3 and 4. This is not something which actually saves you time, because it's very slow, you saw it. It's also quite costly. There's even papers that say that this React pattern that we are seeing here, it's not something which actually saves money or time. But as we know in technology, things which are really expensive today, they cost nothing in a year or so. So I really believe that those agents, those agentic workflows will be the future in one or the other way. Okay, I'm already coming to the end. So before I give my recommendations to you, I want to tell you what happened to us. So we were absolutely thrilled. We had those apps, and then we just read more and more from Salesforce. And Salesforce basically brought out features or announced them as pilots and betas, or however they call it, which killed most of our apps. And this is what wanted to depict here. So my org butler is basically replaceable in theory by Einstein copilots and actions, because that's what it is. Ask Your Document will also be totally natively part of Salesforce, because Salesforce said they will add a vector database to Data Cloud or not Data Cloud, so you can do semantic search on everything that you have in Salesforce. DMD is not replaceable because it's actually an app, but it could be built much simpler and safer. Instead of building all this model change things, we could just use model builder, we could use prompt builder, and by that use the trust layer, which we do not have. So my general recommendation is custom AI is hard. So if you are like most people and like Salesforce, because you can get things done so fast, you probably don't want to do custom AI. If you can wait and afford to pay for native Salesforce features, you should do it. Because you are on the safe side with the trust layer. Most of the things work declaratively without any coding, so you should do it. But if you cannot wait for it, if it's too expensive for you, if you don't want to buy Data Cloud to use Prompt Builder, I highly recommend you to do what we did and experiment with it. And to make it a little bit simpler for you, the apps that we have built, they are available as free AppExchange apps. And some of them, like DMD and my org butler, they are on GitHub. So you can take our code, build your own commercial app, get rich, and send me a postcard. Really, look at the code and see that it's not magic. So I don't have a slide for that, but I really want to say it was also transformational for us to see how quickly we got something done in our company by just using a super small focused team, a bunch of developers who were not on projects, building something in a few weeks or months. Without all the big overhead of normal projects. And this was really cool. We stopped when we had enough insights and basically said, okay, now let's use it. So I really want to recommend you to experiment. And this is why I want to close my presentation with the question to you, when are you going to experiment? All the things I said are in the slides, and the slides are behind this QR code. For sure, I could not leave the stage without saying, if you need help, contact Aquiva. There's a few people here which you can directly talk to. We can help you with using native Salesforce AI, but also custom Salesforce AI. We have just proven we did it. Thank you. And I think we have time for Q&A. 10 more minutes. Perfect. That's what I wanted. So, who's brave? Who's doing the micro thing?
There's someone brave there.
Yeah, the room is small enough. First, Vidar.
So how is this compared to the Einstein AI pilots? Like your experience with this compared to the pilot last week?
Is Salesforce in the room? Yeah. His question was how I do compare my org butler to Einstein Copilot and what's available there. I would say, this is my honest opinion. Copilot is still not there. It's still unstable. So when you play with it, you often see bugs. It's really hard to get an action working which does bigger things. So the thing I just said before, that I don't know how to scope an action. that's a problem. What else can I say? I'm absolutely unsure how that will be priced. You know, it's really, I don't know if I can put it in a managed package. There's many things that I just cannot answer. So I would say if a customer wants something like a Copilot right now, they should basically POC, MVP it with OpenAI, and later maybe port it to a Copilot. Because the most of the things that you are programming is actually the Apex actions, and you can just have them in your org without a big change. You know, the only change you will later do is replacing the OpenAI part with the instructions by using a native Salesforce Copilot. Aiden?
You said about choosing the size of the actions. Did you try with the org partners with smaller actions? You showed us that you had
Yeah. I get, yeah. When I first tweeted about my org butler, I think I got contacted by a Salesforce dev evangelist who told me that such a huge action which can call APIs is insecure and not best practice. And then I tried to be a good guy and just made smaller actions. But the problem I found is they immediately overlap. It confuses the LLM which action to take. So for example, if you have many actions which do something on opportunity, if your task is very vague, it might choose the wrong one. So yeah, that's the honest answer.
Power of description.
What?
The power of description.
The power of what?
Description.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, maybe. That's a good answer in Salesforce. Always put a description. It started with custom fields. It's now with actions. What else? Yes, please.
How do you see the future? You just showed an example, like, find me an opportunity, fair task for me. Every business is different. Somebody using Service Cloud, somebody using managed packages, and anybody can make a similar thinking. So let's say 5 years from now, would there be something for all of these different clouds on top of Salesforce? Like, there are people manually filling up the fields, going through a process, and, kind of just creating a record.
Exactly. I know it. You said a question. So I think
It's like prompting. So just do it for me.
exactly. That's my belief, and I read about this. This will transform how people use apps, and it will also transform app development. So I think in the future, much more things will be just done by language. I think typing is also suboptimal. So instead of clicking through related lists, you just basically talk with your app. But I think it will, what's much more important, I think it will transform app development, because I think app development is like thinking about jobs which many people will do repeatedly and then building an app. That's app development. But why should I do it if I could basically build the app while talking? So I think in the future, apps might be just less UI and more agentic things, and inside the app has all those actions and can do things, Like in the past, it was API first, when you build an application, you build strong APIs so people can remix and repurpose your app. I think in the future, apps will actually contain such small callable actions so that people can not only use it with language, but also build on top. That's my vision or idea. Yes?
So on that, if I guess the future is that you've got apps that you don't know what people are going to ask and you don't necessarily know who's going to record it, do things like testing just go out the window because everybody has to accept, you know what, results are to some extent unpredictable, deal with it, it's the future.
Yeah. That's a good question. But I would say it's also the same with humans. You know, there are some jobs which we automate because we don't want to pay humans. And the moment we can afford humans, every human will potentially do it a little bit different, which might even be a good thing, you know? Instead of pushing an upgrade to an app, it could actually learn. What I want to say is that I think it would be actually better if apps would be more like humans. So not super deterministic, but also evolving. But you're right. I have no clue on how to make that bulletproof. But just a few ideas. You could still have checks in there. You know, when the AI makes a transaction, at the end of the day, there is deterministic code which checks if the balance is right or if customers didn't lose money or something like that. Another example I can just give you, I talked with Salesforce at the last Dreamforce about the future of PMD, you know, this tool which checks code if that's still needed. And they said that's actually more needed. When people generate more code with AI, then you need a tool like PMD which deterministically finds out if there's crap in there. So, you know, maybe it's a little bit like that. Apps get more fuzzy, but there's also a small deterministic part which at the end of the day calculates if the world still is in order. But it's just guesswork. So, yes?
Not a question, but just a follow-up on the previous question. So if you go to LinkedIn, look for a chap called Jim Stukas, S-T-U-K-A-S. He works for Salesforce now. He did a great presentation on non-deterministic testing for Salesforce.
Cool. Thanks. I will ping you for that. Yes?
We have the big actions that are calling API. How do they know what to put in a request body? Did the LLM just know that?
It knows that. You can ask the ChatGPT to have a Shakespeare discussion with you. They for sure know which Salesforce APIs exist and what the parameters are.
You're kind of dependent on the version of the API that was present when the LLM was trained. Like something new came out, you'd be waiting for the model from day.
Yes, but that's the good thing with such assistants. When something goes wrong, they make sense out of the error. So just imagine the LLM tells me to call an API, Salesforce calls it and runs into an error. We send the error back to OpenAI, and OpenAI immediately internally, you can see it in the logs like, oh yeah, the wrong API version, and tries it again. So that's the cool thing. Are we still in time? Can I still? Yeah. So, Rob.
Hi.
Hey.
Have you seen any customers putting AI into their products for production yet? Or do we still play?
Salesforce AI? They can't. I mean, yeah, we saw it today on the demo jams. There are, for sure, customers who use generative AI. I don't want to say who our customers are, but you know, a lot of Salesforce ISVs or Salesforce tools like Elements Cloud, they are full of generative AI. And what I can say from the Aquiva experience, that many ISV partners come to us and ask, when can I put this in my managed package app? Because that's really cool. Simplify the usage of a managed package. And I didn't hear anything from Salesforce about that, but that would be really cool. So there is huge interest. There is also huge frustrations when people try to actually use Copilots. You know, it doesn't work in Scratch orgs. You have to get a crappy Trailhead Scratch org, which, yeah. So it's a mix. Okay, thanks a lot.